This luncheon coincides with what can only be called a war on women. Less than 4 months ago, anti-choice politicians took control of the U.S. House of Representatives and countless state legislatures. As was mentioned, we are truly in for the fight of our lives. In Washington, anti-choice politicians have gone from trying to redefine rape to allowing hospitals to refuse to provide abortion care to women who will die without it. They also want to subject rape survivors who choose abortion care to audits by the Internal Revenue Service. These politicians voted to eliminate funding for family planning centers, taking away millions of Americans' access to contraception, cancer screenings, and other basic health care. So the very same people who oppose legal abortion voted to block women's access to birth control. What is wrong with this picture? The hypocrisy of this group. The callousness, the hypocrisy that defines the war on women doesn't end in Washington. In South Dakota, a so-called smaller government governor signed a bill into law that forces women to visit an anti-choice crisis pregnancy center before she can access abortion care. That's right. The state now forces by law to visit an anti-choice, an anti-abortion group before making their decision. During last year's elections, these are the same lawmakers that campaigned on the promise of smaller, less intrusive government that focused on creating jobs. Well, they are failing to live up to their promises and instead exposing their hypocrisy. In fact, they want government that's just small enough to fit inside our bedroom and or our medicine cabinet. Now, in short, I see this as a battle between their hypocrisy and our hope for the future. The war on women is out of touch with our country's values and priorities. A few years ago, a dear friend said to me during an especially personal, challenging time, "Nancy, the toughest steel is made in the hottest fire." Well, folks, we're putting out fires every day, but we are also seeing examples of hope and courage. Every day, we are seeing courageous people standing up, speaking up, and acting on behalf of their pro-choice values. One such story comes from Wyoming, where we have a state affiliate. And when an anti-choice bill came to the floor of the Wyoming House, the debate was intense. That's when 2 women state legislators stood up and shared their personal experiences with pregnancy, including a decision about choosing abortion. Rep. Sue Wallace, a Republican from Recluse, Wyoming, began her remarks. "I'm going to tell you a couple of things that are none of your damned business." And she proceeded to tell her story about being the mother of 3 children and making the difficult decision to terminate an unintended pregnancy. The power of her and her colleagues' stories helped defeat the bill after about a 24-hour waiting period. They defeated it. It was because of the leadership of our state affiliate, NARAL Pro-Choice Wyoming, that Wyoming, one of the most politically conservative states in our country, has not enacted an anti-choice law since 1989. This work underscores the most fundamental tenet of our movement. Pro-choice is not a Democrat value. It is not a Republican value. It is an American value. So women in Wyoming and our own Congresswoman Spear inspired the entire country when she told her story, heartbreaking story on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. Think about that for a moment. Just consider sharing one of the most personal decisions you have ever made, and the world watched. These profiles encourage, from Wyoming, from Congresswoman Spear, these profiles encourage are moving people to action. We are adding an average of 1,000 new people to our activists every single day. Our hope for a better country that respects women's freedom and privacy is a mainstream value that a majority of Americans share. That's why I believe that at the end of the day, our hope will crush their hypocrisy. As we fight these battles, these everyday battles, we must do so with an eye on the future. Our country is experiencing significant change demographically, politically, economically. And with this change comes opportunity. Now is the time that we reimagine how we protect legal abortion in our country. If you were born after 1980, we're talking about you. You, a member. Why are you laughing? Nobody 1980 here? Okay, a few of us. This is the millennial generation, and the millennial generation is a priority for NARAL Pro-Choice America. And let me tell you, just to consider these numbers. By 2020, 40% of all eligible voters in America will be millennials. The power of that generation. Now, we know that many young women and men are already leaders in our movement, including today's keynote speaker and one of our award recipients. But there are also so many young people who do not see a place for themselves in this movement, who do not connect with the stories and the language of the past. This generation is writing their own stories based on their experiences. They are pro-choice. They are pro-choice. In fact, young men are a little bit more pro-choice than the young women. And I have every confidence in my heart that they will protect the right to choose for future generations. We just have to help them understand and connect the personal with the political. So for you here today, I have just one request. Use your power to talk about what you heard today with someone in your life you've never talked to about abortion. It takes the inconvenience of wading into uncertain waters, of starting a conversation where you're not sure where it might go. Honestly, you're going to walk into a few firestorms. But just like my friend told me, going through a few firestorms is good for us, and it makes us stronger. None of this is easy, but it is important, and it's too important not to act on. Nearly 1,000 people are joining us every day. You, each of you, have the power to reach out to one person and make that number 1,001, 1,002. We have that kind of power as individuals. Thank you for the support, the passion, your voice, and the hope you bring to me, to this organization, and to our cause. We are stronger because of each one of you. Thanks for joining us.